Susie,
Rob.
are you ready for a special extra bonus episode because of the summer holidays?
Oh, yes. What are we
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I'm going to completely launch some squid at you. Are you a fan of squid?
I love squid. Love to eat squid, like cooking squid. One of
Yeah.
my favorite things.
Great. Well, I look forward to feeding you some tasty calamari fossil snacks for you to enjoy for this week. So, Susie, what have you been up to for the last 10 minutes since we just finished recording the last episode?
Not very much, Rob. But I
No.
will tell you that I can't get access to the paper that you have just sent me on this link. So I do have to just put it into my library account.
So, because it's the summer holidays and Susie and I are going to be away and we're going to do a little bonus episode, I was tasked with coming up with some invertebrate papers and I initially chose this one, but I ended up doing the invertebrate one because this one, it, it's just a little short story. Squid.
Squid.
Squid and cephalopods. So cephalopods, squids belong to the cephalopods alongside octopuses, and importantly, a lot of these things with hard bony skeletons like ammonites and belemnites. Now, when it comes to the fossil record of these things, it's actually we've got a really, really good fossil record for ammonites and belemnites because they've got a nice shell, and they were really important components of the Mesozoic ecosystems we've been talking about. We were talking about what these ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs were eating, probably almost certainly all these guys. But when it comes to squid and octopus, the fossil record is really, really difficult because they're all squishy bodies, aren't they? As
Got to
you've
be squidding
noticed.
me, Rod.
Oh no. No, you snuck that in there when I
I
wasn't
did.
expecting that. Okay, so these guys, this team in Japan, Shin Ikigama and friends, where in Japan? Sapporo Hokkaido University, oh, northern Japan. Uh, they released a paper earlier this year, Origin and Radiation of Squids Revealed by Digital Fossil Mining. Now, the way this paper was presented to me, I was initially quite excited. I was like, oh, what they're doing is new innovative paleontological techniques and digitalization. And then when I actually got into it, I got a little bit, the wind went out of my sails, rather, when I found out what they actually did. So they wanted to look at the beaks. So squids have beaks as their feedings, but they're not mineralized. So we in last episode we were talking about mineralization and not bony bits, and these ammonite shells are all the fossilized bits. Okay, so beaks. There's the only hard part of an octopus or a squid. They're entirely squishy, soft-bodied, unlike a lot of other mollusks, and they've got these beaks composed of hard chitin and cross-linked proteins. But that doesn't fossilize very well because you need some nice mineralization to fossilize. So what these guys in Japan did was that they tried to identify this new sort of way of doing it with what they described as new. They took a whole load of concretions, specifically from the Cretaceous of Japan, and they ground them up and took pictures. So
Oh,
this digital mining technique is serial grinding. And the serial grinding has been going on for 100 years or so. From
more probably.
more,
Yeah.
more, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So serial grinding is basically where you just it's a technique that's existed for a long time, 100 years plus, where you just take your fossil and then you grind it just a little bit, take a picture, grind it a little bit, take a picture, grind it a little bit, take a picture. And then you end up with all these 3D slices, and then you can construct some sort of 3D anatomy, make it a nice waxwork model. So that technique has long existed before we could used to be able to scan things. It does lead to the fossil getting completely destroyed.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Why are they saying it's digital? A, and B, why didn't they just CT scan it like everyone else?
Well, this is why it's a bonus episode and not a standalone episode, because that was what I was a bit disappointed by. I was like, what? You've called it digital. I was expecting some AI, some sort of innovative
Yeah.
use of technologies, but what's actually happening is it's really, really old school. I think the digital comes in because they took digital pictures and made a 3D model from it.
Yeah. Digital photography. Cutting edge, Rob.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's cutting edge as a pun. You're doing all the puns again. And that one even I almost didn't notice on that
I
one.
didn't notice that one, to be honest.
Okay. So they've got these nice 3D beaks. Now, my I should try and put aside my skepticism because the reason it's cool is because you couldn't do this another way, right? You couldn't just crack open these concretions. The beaks are too soft, they get destroyed, and you couldn't do it with chemical dissolution because they are organic, they'll get melted up, they're not mineralized. Why you
But
couldn't
could you
CT
do it with
scan it?
CT? Okay, go on, you're going to tell me.
Maybe that you don't get good contrast, but you must do get good contrast because they're just
Well,
organic-y
you
bits.
Well, you think that the contrast between rock, so what if to get a good CT scan, you need density differences, right, between the
Yeah.
tissues that and the rock. And so you'd think that something that's made up of organic material versus a rock would give you good density differences, but maybe they don't. I don't know.
I think here's the answer for you, I think, is the volume. Because you don't know with your concretion what's in it before you scan it, right? And they wanted to scan like 1,000 or so. And if you want to scan 1,000 concretions, that's perhaps too much. I guess grinding a
Un
thousand concretions is probably quite a lot of work too.
Unlike grinding 1,000. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know. Do you know what would be good here? Do you know what they could have done? I
right.
reckon
Yeah.
would be to CT scan some rocks, get some candidates, and then take it to the synchrotron. We talked about the synchrotron in the last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe the evolution of squid isn't cool enough for to get a synchrotron grant though. I don't know.
Well, I think the difference is that they're not interested necessarily in the anatomy of the beaks. They want to look at the distribution of the beaks in terms of the volume of diversity through time. Like if
Okay.
you had a really fine, detailed anatomy of a beak, what would that tell you? It might tell you a bit about its feeding, I guess, and what it was composed of. But really, what they wanted to do was get a good sample through time. So it's not so much the accuracy they needed, the volume.
Well, they needed lots, right? But I guess they
Yeah.
needed to identify them to species level or
Yes.
to
And that's
genus
what
level.
that's what they end up with. The main point is they end up with a period from 100 million years ago to 66 million years ago, where they've got this distribution of loads and loads of squid through time. Until this point, basically, we had maybe none or a handful because it had to be exceptional Lagerstadt for it to be preserved. But now we've got a rich fossil record. That's why this is interesting, is because you've now got, because of this particular approach, we've got loads more data than we otherwise had nothing before. So that's fun for a soft-bodied organism.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about this idea that you have this explosive, so they say explosive radiation of squids at the Cenomanian, which is when their
Hmm.
sampling starts.
Yes.
Could it
Well,
just be that, they
yeah.
haven't sampled in the same way prior to that, or that squids
Yeah.
had beaks that didn't preserve as well? Like that maybe these cross-linked chitin,
Yeah.
maybe they didn't have cross-links in the chitin before that, which meant they were less likely to
Mm,
preserve, or there's some sort of paleoenvironmental bias. I mean,
yeah. There's
yeah,
also edge effects, right? Yeah, they turn up when
mm,
we started looking for them is also a
they turned up when we
possibility.
started looking for them. Exactly.
But the story they say is that these guys ex had this massive diversification at the same time the Belamites were on their way out. So that's kind of interesting.
Oh, and sad because
So
I like a Bellum night.
you like a Belamite. So just for
Yeah.
the audience at home, can you explain what a Belamite is?
Well, belemnites in the fossil record are basically bullet-shaped objects.
Yeah,
They sort of form these kind of long, thin, pointy rods,
yeah.
and they're very widely distributed. Actually, I don't know when do we first see them in the fossil record? Are they strictly Mesozoic? Do we know them from the
I think
Triassic?
they're only Mesozoic, I
No,
think, yeah.
they go right the way through to I guess the end of the Cretaceous, as far as I know.
Mhm.
Certainly through the Jurassic, but maybe they were much in decline during the Cretaceous then, given what they've just
Yeah,
said. But they're interpreted to be squid-like animals or really almost like cuttlefish-like animals, aren't they? So they've got like an
yeah.
internal today it's silicious usually, but I
Mhm.
guess that it may have been formed of something else originally. And they had this yeah, kind of internal structure. This bullet-like structure was internal, and then the soft-bodied parts were around it.
Yeah,
But they're extremely abundant as fossils and very, very easy to
yeah.
find.
There's the sort of thing you might take your kids finding for, and you could kick them over on the beaches of Lyme Regis or Yorkshire and find tons of them. I'm sure they exist in other parts of the world, but these are the bits that I would go taking my kids focil hunting with. Yeah,
Do you know
you can get loads of them.
when we I don't know whether you came to the progressive paleontology meeting that I ran. So
Mhm.
progressive paleontology, for the benefit of the listeners, is a meeting that's for a conference that's organized by students for students. And so when I was a PhD student in Cambridge back in 2000, and I'm going to say I think it was 2006, we organized ProgPal, and we did a field trip to the Oxford Clay, Teterborough, which is a Middle Jurassic deposit in the UK, famous for its marine crocs and ichthyosaurs and things like that, plesiosaurs. And we had a competition to find the biggest belemnite, and we found some whoppers. Did you come on that field trip?
I didn't go on that field trip,
We
sorry.
found some whoppers.
Yeah. How big are we talking?
I mean, probably 30 centimeters, like yeah, like the
Wow.
size of a ruler, maybe
Wow.
maybe 25, but also like girthy. Yeah, it was impressive.
Blimey. So
Mm.
keep an eye out, fossil fans. Although maybe this is difficult. If I ask you now to go and if I ask our listeners to go out and find Belemnites on the beach, am I encouraging infantile, selfish, selfless Neanderthal collecting things? This is rather so. This is referring to an older episode, people. If you haven't listened to that one, that's a good one. Go and check that one out. Anyway, so let's get back to these squid. That's the end of the story, really. It's just a little short, sharp study. I mean, I say a short, sharp study. If they've ground thousands of concretions, that's a terribly large amount of work, but it is just one sort of headline. We got a lot of
Um,
squid.
Rob, this paper's in Science.
Yes, I'm going to leave a long pause there because I know what you're trying to say. I was
Uh-huh.
when I finished reading the paper, I was also a bit surprised by that. Like, it's a there's nothing wrong with this work. It's a solid piece of work. It's a lot of work, but I think if you're going to make these big claims, well, oh, I've got to be really careful. Yes, it's in Science, Susie.
Hmm.
Yeah. I might edit out some of that. Yeah, maybe that's encouraging. Maybe you can do a nice piece of solid paleontological work, and there's a space for it in some of the most highest profile journals without any fancy bells and whistles attached to it,
Or stats.
or stats,
Mm. Okay, well,
or
that's
eco
good to know. That's good to
or
know. Yeah.
or ecology, or phylogenetics, or histology,
Or sampling bias
or something
acknowledgement.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Good.
nevertheless,
Good paper,
congratulations
Rob.
to
Yep.
Shin Ikigama. That was just a little short bonus episode. I hope you enjoyed that, fossil file fans. And now we have delivered on an invertebrate, a bona fide proper invertebrate. No other actual vertebrates sneaking in here at all. Although I guess the part of the story is that these are okay. I'm going to bring in the just at that very last minute. I'm going to bring in some vertebrates because these are an important prey item in the Mesozoic seas. Right, the ichthyosaurs and the plesiosaurs were almost certainly eating absolute metric tons of these squids and ammonites at the time.
And that's why they're important, folks.
Invertebrates are allowed to be important in their own right. They don't have to just be there. All right. Okay. Thanks, Susie.
Good
I'm
to
looking
speak to you,
forward
Rob.
to my Triassic punk. See you soon.
Bye bye.
The Fossil Files was presented by Robert Sansom and Susanna Maidment. You can find more information, including links to the original papers that were discussed, at fossils.libsyn.com, and you can contact us at fossilfiles.pod@gmail.com.